Congress reaching a deal to extend the debt ceiling. That's only, though, till December. Senate voting to raise that debt ceiling by $480 billion and avoid an unprecedented federal default. The House expected to pass the bill. For more on all of it and what's going on in Washington, I want to bring in David Wessel. He's the director at Brookings Institute, and he's the author of a book everybody should read. It is called Only the Rich Can Play. It's a fascinating book about the story of opportunity zones. It is out this week with a nice blurb by David Rubenstein, by the way. Anyway, let's talk to this David. David, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Help us understand what happened last night, and to the extent that it matters, how you think this is going to play again, because this movie is going to start up all over again in December.
That's right. Well, basically, in the end, the Republicans were unwilling to put the U.S. into default, so they bought some time for the Democrats. I think the action now will move to whether the Democrats can unify their caucus and put together a coalition of moderates and progressives to pass the big spending bills and tax bills that they have in the works. And, you mentioned my book. I mean, this is how Washington works. In the end, it'll take something, somebody will get something they want in order to get their vote. In the Opportunity Zone case, it was Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina, who managed to get Opportunity Zones into the bill. I am certain that at the end, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema will get something in this bill that'll allow them to swallow hard, and the Democrats will pass it. It's not sure, but most people in Washington think the Democrats aren't so stupid as to blow this chance for really huge legislation.
And you think they get both bills?
I think they get both bills in the end. I think it's going to be messy, and I'm not saying it's 100%.
And what do you think it is that Manchin and Sinema get?
I have no idea.
That would persuade them to go along with this, especially when it comes to some of the tax hike issues.
I think in the end, it'll be pressure from Biden and from other Democrats that let's not go into the next year with a failure on the part of this thing. So it'll be, I don't know what they specifically want. I mean, the joke in Washington is that no one knows what Kyrsten Sinema wants and she won't tell them. Manchin is an easier get. I think he has a lot of concerns about the fossil fuel things, and he'll probably, in the end, come around. But the problem here is that they have no margin. The Democrats have no margin.
But
a few votes in the House.
Come around to what, though? Because there is a view, Joe, we were just talking about it earlier, that potentially this bill is just more progressive, if you will, than where the country may very well be. Do you agree or disagree with that idea?
I'm not sure about that. Look, I was really interested in the gubernatorial candidate from New Jersey, who made clear that I'm against what Biden's doing, except I want this big infrastructure bill so we can get the Gateway Tunnel built. So I think that the Democrats are counting on the fact that while the headlines may be scary to people, when they see what's in it, people will really want these benefits. And the Republicans are betting that if you can talk enough about taxes and you can talk enough about debt, that people won't appreciate what's in the bill. So, look, I think the Democrats think this is like their only shot. That if they don't get this bill passed this year, it'll never happen, and the Biden administration will start to become a failure. So I think it's that kind of partisan pressure that will bring Sinema and Manchin around. There's a lot of bargaining going on. Nobody wants to fold early. Surely the progressives know they're not going to get a $3.5 trillion bill, and Joe Manchin knows he's not going to get a $1.5 trillion bill. But once you start at that level, Congress is very good at compromise in the end. But the thing is so bitter now, both within the Democratic Party and between Democrats and Republicans, that it just seems almost impossible to imagine them coming to a deal. But I bet they do.